people. So we're back with another one. I hope you all have been staying safe and staying free and having a good start to the weekend and enjoying that content. Now, this one that I'm bringing to you all today is all about the bus ride to prison known as the Sweatbox. So let's get into it. So I'm sure a lot of you would have seen a prison bus out in public, even if you haven't had the fortunate, experience of getting into a prison sweat van. Now, the reason why it's called a sweat box by prisoners is because when you get onto the prison bus and get up them first couple of steps and make that turn in, it's just a small passageway of one person being able to walk down, and there's about four single seats either side of the prison bus. And it's not like America to where everyone's sitting on the seats together and you're caged off, you can see each other. No, it's just like a prison cell if you think of it, around an actual seat. Now, the reason why it's called a sweat box is because when you get uncuffed and get into the sweat box, and that prison door bus gets shut on you, even if you don't have claustrophobia, the claustrophobia is going to kick in. And even for people that are used to this as a profession and have been to prison many of times, one thing that I noticed that gets people agitated is being on, the prison bus, the sweat box, longer than what you have to be. Now, back in the 2000s, late 2000s, even to this day, even though you get modern vehicles, they are still using these old prison buses to where there's only AC at the front where the screws sit. There's no AC at the back. Now, yes, you do get the odd one or two new plate prison bus, and I had the experience of, experiencing them both. The first time was when I went to my category A prison, and it was run down prison bus, and it just had the basics of a radio at the front, which was luckily to experience. Now we're gonna get into after. So the first prison bus that was run down that had no AC on was when I experienced why it's called a sweat box. As yes, when I was young I got into trouble, but I never had the experience of going into a prison bus. Now, when you are in that small confined space, you have your body heat with no window, no AC inside of there, and all you can do is get up. You can't move, you can't do nothing. You're just better off to sit down. Now, you have the heat of the prison engine bus that's underneath of the vehicle coming up through, just like thinking of sitting on the back seat of a bus, and you can feel the heat coming through. That's what it's like. Now, by the time you get off that prison bus, you've been in, from court, you've sat there even when you had to wait outside of the prison too, maybe an hour or two, because there's other prison buses that are unloading prisoners, and it could be even longer. So you could experience at least 4 to 6 hours on a prison bus in these kind of conditions, and you're only given a small, very small little plastic container of water that gives you about one sip. Now, while I was, getting shipped out to my second prison was when I experienced, the new prison bus, and it had AC. So there's a big difference to when you're getting onto an old prison bus and a new one, as the conditions make it a lot better for people that are traveling on there. Now, a prison bus is one of the most uncomfortable vehicles that has ever been created. I get it's not for comfort and so forth and whatnot, but it's worse than a worse coastal ride that you can get and go to, a park and get on a ride and think it's bad. No, a prison bus is worse than that. Now, when you're on a prison bus, even if it's a shitty rundown one, you'll be lucky enough if it's not fucked up the radio, you will get to experience the radio. Now, this is the thing when you're going to prison, even especially if it's for your first time. When you're, deep in your surroundings and not looking out the tinted window because you're stationary, there's a lot of people, even when you do get on the road to go into prison and the songs start getting slapped on for the radio, there's people all singing, jamming along to the songs. And I'll never forget when I was going to my cat A, My Sex Was on Fire was the song that was playing, and there was people singing to it and shit. And of course it wasn't everyone, but there was a couple people like myself that was just deep in the surroundings of what's going on and shit. But when you get on the bus, that's something that you experience too. You can't see the other prisoners, but you can shout and speak. As when I was getting shit from the Cat A2, there was someone from my wing that I knew, and we used to conversate, you know, by shouting. And that's what everyone does. Even if you're trying to get at the screws, you would shout to say, hey, yo, do 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 do. Now, when it comes to, you know, getting onto a prison bus as well, not only does it have to be, you know, a ride, a bus journey to prison, but it can be to court. As if you get into trouble at your local police station and whatever reason they decide to hold you in custody until the next following day to take your ass to court, then you're gonna experience, you know, the joys of getting on a prison bus too, even if you're not going to prison. Now, there is certain exceptions I've seen where there's vehicles that will, you know, transport prisoners to certain prisons depending on the situation, and it's just like a black traveling taxi with prison screws inside, with the prisoner, you know, obviously handcuffed, being traveled wherever it is that they're going. Now, when it comes to this experience, it's one thing that you will never forget, going to prison, of the surroundings, of to what's going on and what a prison bus is actually like. And you know, it's one of those things that you hope that you never have to go through, and if you do, then it's all in the experience though. So I hope you all have enjoyed the video. If you do have any of your experiences going to court on the prison sweat boxes, or you know, your bus ride to prison, do drop a comment, people. Do stay safe, everyone, and stay free.